Yo, what up guys, it's Flark. And, alright, you win. I will make videos before the season starts. I was originally not going to, because the meta shifts and develops a lot during the first week of the season, especially in a new expansion, and there's a lot of new comps, there's a new class, there's a lot of new specs that can be good or bad, and that's going to shape how we want to build our characters. But the second I hit 70, my Twitch stream, the DK Discord, my own Discord, it was filled to the brim. It was an explosion of questions. Dual wield versus two-hander, Frost versus Unholy, disease build versus wound build versus pet build. How do I build these things? How do I build the two-hander build? How do I choose between piercing chill and enduring chill, the chill streak talents? And there's a lot of questions. And all I said the entire time was, gee, I don't know. And I realized at the first bit, I was kind of overwhelmed, maybe even irritable, you know me. It's tough to answer those questions 40 minutes into level 70. But then I realized something. I realized that people care about my opinion on these things. And that's pretty dang awesome. Also, probably they say this nerd plays 30 hours of World of Warcraft a day. That's not even mathematically possible. So I have to agree with what he's saying, right? So they probably have some of that there too. And they're right, I do play a lot of World of Warcraft. But that's cool. So I did something. I played a lot of World of Warcraft. For about 18 straight hours. I geared my character completely and theorycrafted immensely, and I created some beautiful builds for Frost Unholy, and I created guide material that I can make and be happy with now, because that was one of the problems. I didn't want to give you guys false information. So instead of making the Season 1 compendium first, I started off with these guides, starter guides, to Dragonflight Season 1 PvP for Frost Unholy, and that should get you immersed in the build development, the theory craft, the content, the gearing, and everything, so you can start practice and honing your skills and fundamentally understanding all your cooldowns and how your character plays, so you can be ready for Dragonflight Season 1 as any DK spec. And that I'm happy with. And then afterwards, once the season goes on for a bit, I will make my compendiums, my definitive guides, and we're both happy. I hope you guys like it. Thank you guys for inspiring this in-between video, and I hope you're having a wonderful time with Dragonflight. Okay, so let's talk about gear. Gearing is a lot easier in Dragonflight. There are two main sources of getting gear right now: Honor and Bloody Tokens. Honor and Bloody Tokens gear can both be found in this building that I'm circling 100 times on my map, so go find it. And of course, you got the Honor Quartermaster right here. You can get Honor from BGs, Skirms, Epic Battlegrounds. You guys know the drill, and you can buy the pieces right here. But on the other side of the building, you can get Bloody Tokens gear from this fellow, and that has 3 item levels less than Honor gear, but it also has a tier set on it. Again, this is Bloody Tokens gear. You can find it right here, and that tier set gives you versatility and also a nice heal, or an absorb, when you are stunned for 10 seconds. So they actually have to go through that when you're stunned once every 2 minutes, so pretty much the first go. It's worth grabbing and losing the 3 item levels for. So you might as well try and find some Bloody Tokens that you can get from World PvP and World PvP quests. You can also upgrade your gear from this guy right here, but you don't have to. That upgrade is for your PvE item level. PvE item level being dungeons, raids, or the open world. If you notice, the PvP gear immediately scales to 411. Even at upgrade 1 out of 5, it's instantly going to maximum. That's incredible. So when you upgrade stuff, it's actually just making you more powerful in the rest of the world. But in a PvP environment, you're maxed out immediately, which is fantastic. It gets you in there, gets you on an open playing field. And if you still want something to work for, you can make yourself stronger in the rest of the world. So that's fantastic, which means all you really have to do is figure out what stats you need. So let's talk about it. So right above my head, I'm going to put up a graphic here for my stat weights. Of course, versatility is top dog. It is king, but it's also a little bit out of the equation because, well, you're going to have versatility. You're going to have it from every single piece. You don't really need to stack it. You don't really need to think about it. You're just simply going to have it. So you don't need to gem it or enchant it. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to mix around your versatility at all. You're just going to have the verse that you need from PvP gear. So makes the real question: between crit, haste, and mastery, what stats do I choose? That's a fantastic question. So how we have to answer this is we have to think about, in the end of the last expansion, you had the most secondary stats on gear that you will get the entire expansion. Right now, we have the least secondary stats on gear that will get the entire expansion. So of course, output is very important. mastery is very important, and I do have some, and also the Frostwhelp's Indignation. Frostwhelp's Aid gives you mastery, which is fantastic. And then, of course, you have Verse. That's an output stat, and you have tons of that from your base gear. Which means what you really need to build for is haste, because that is what you've really lost going into the new expansion. You're going to feel very sluggish if you have no haste. Just try it. Try having no haste and see how every global is so slow. The problem with PvP is it's not static. People don't stand there like training dummies and let you hit them. You have to set up goes, and then you need to get your damage off during that go. You have to have fast enough globals and fast enough resource gen that you constantly do damage at the most important times, and haste is very, very good with that. If you don't have any, you will feel so sluggish. So what I did here is I pretty much got all the haste pieces. Haste, 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 haste. And I left my output to my ring, because you can control a lot of mastery from jewelry, right? When this is upgraded, it's actually a ton of mastery in a PvP, right? So I got mastery there. I got mastery from Frostwhelps, and I got all my output Verse, right, from PvP gear. And of course, you got your badge, your little on-use damage. So that helps you get the output. And then all of the haste gear that I bought smooths out your rotation and smooths out your sustain, so you can actually pressure people in those important windows. So haste, 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 haste. Eventually, we're going to flesh out like more crit, more mastery, and that's going to feel really, really good. We just don't have enough secondary stats to work with. Now, I did go opt for going a crit ring because I had haste on every single piece, and I wanted to see if I drop a little bit of haste and put like a crit ring with a crit enchant, do I still feel smooth enough? And then I can get a little bit of value from like Chill Streak crits and Ice Cap and KM procs outside of Pillar. And I found that, yes, I did not lose that much and I gained a lot. So what I effectively recommend to you is grabbing haste for all of your main gear and then using your jewelry, your crit and your mastery rings to supplement a little bit of those other stats while getting Frostwhelps for, of course, more mastery and Verse from everything. And that will make you feel like a complete player in Season 1. That is what I'm going to be running, and I'm only going to expand upon that with my Conquest gear. Of course, we talked about this. You can run Badge or Insignia. They're actually both good for Pillar. It used to be only Badge, but you can run Insignia now because your Pillar is not a 1-minute cooldown anymore. Now, of course, I still run it here because it's the best way to get an opener. It's the best way to do the most damage in the open. So if you're trying to win quick, Badge is really good because you just press it, macro it to your keys, and you're good. But Insignia, you might have it up more often during every Pillar with the shorter pillars from Ice Cap. So you can also run that if you're looking to build more sustain. And enchants, again, I showed you crit, haste. You can get those tenants from your, whatever they're called now, for your rings. You can get some speed and leech on your cloak and bracers. It's not that important. Some of them are really, really expensive. And we have our own weapon Runeforges, thank goodness. Razor Ice and Rune of Fallen Crusader. And yes, that takes me into the guaranteed question. I'll probably have to have a separate timestamp just for this. Dual wield versus two-hander. And right now, I'm edging a bit towards dual wield, but I believe that they are both going to be viable. So I will be providing you a build for both in the talent section, and I also will be telling you about the weapon and the Runeforge choices for both right now. Of course, dual wield's benefit is that it gets 2 Runeforges, which is great with Unholy Bond, which is this, right? That's very impactful. It gets faster Razor Ice applications. It gets faster pillars. It gets more killing machine procs. That's all well and good for sustain. And then two-handed's benefit is that it does a lot more obliterate damage, which is great with the tier set that comes out with Conquest gear. Like, that makes your obliterate do more damage as well, so another modifier. That's going to be big upfront chunky hits. So they both have merit. They do. Two-hander bursts very hard. Dual wield also bursts very hard because it gets Fallen Crusader. Or it gets faster Razor Ice for more Frost Strikes, depending on which route you go. And they're both going to be valuable for that reason. But I don't think until the season is like way underway, because they're close. If they weren't close, then I could tell you which one to run. But until the season gets way underway and we know exactly how the meta is going to look, I don't think I can give you that answer. So instead, I'm going to give you a build for both and the Runeforges that you would run for both. So of course, with dual wield, you're going to run Razor Ice and Fallen Crusader. That's a no-brainer. But when you put on a two-hander, you have to drop one of those. Now, I think you can drop Razor Ice and play Avalanche to apply Razor Ice, and then just don't run Shattering so you don't drop it, and you constantly get the benefits of Razor Ice from Avalanche, and you get Fallen Crusader procs, which is really valuable. But if you want to run the Shattering Frost Strike, which we'll talk about in a bit with two-hander, which still hits pretty hard, you can play Razor Ice, and then you just sacrifice Fallen Crusader altogether, which is brutal. It's 15% strength and a heal. But that's what you would do, right? So, but those are the only two RUNEFORGES you'll ever think about. You're not going to think about any of the others ever for any reason. So Razor Ice and Fallen Crusader for dual wield, and Razor Ice or Fallen Crusader for two-hander. And let me get into the talents so we can explain that. So that's your gearing. Yeah, it's a little... it's a lot easier, but it's a little overwhelming, like, still which weapon choice to make. So let's get into talents and try and clean that up a bit. So talents. Here's my dual wield set. You can see it. It's the loadout for dual wield. This goes down the standard everything. So right, this you always grab. We're not going to really ever be talking about like Frost Strike and Obliterate. Then the pillar package in the center. That's Pillar of Frost, Enduring Strength, Ice Cap for faster pillars, and Frost Whelps. We talked about this ad nauseum. There's a way to get mastery without having to secondary stat into mastery, and that's fantastic because it's on every pillar, and your pillar is your burst window, so of course you want this. That's a no-brainer. Then you go the Obliteration package. That gives you Ice Cap value immediately. It gives you a ton of Obliterate damage, and it gives you tons of Rune Generation. It comes with more Killing Machines outside of pillar, and more Frost damage outside of pillar or inside of pillar, which is just great for sustain. Then you get all the Obliteration components, which is just making your Obliterate do more damage, Obliterate doing Frost damage, Obliterate do more damage from Frigid Executioner, and you're good to go. Then, of course, we talked about Shattering Strikes. This is one of the key focal points that you can grab now at 70, and this consumes your Razor Eye stack, so it drops it back down to 0. But it makes your Frost Strike hit really hard, which is bursty. But the reason why this could be bad for two-hander and is great for dual wield is because dual wield applies Razor Ice very quickly. So you have less time that Razor Ice is off them. So you're doing more damage, right, overall. But also you are getting more access to Shattering Blade because the faster you stack it to 5, the more you can actually consume them to shatter, right? So... That's really important to think about while we're going through all these talents. But yeah, Shattering Blade for dual wield, absolutely. Huge Frost Strike damage, and it's a finishing blow. You're going to hit like a big Obliterate into a big dual wield Frost Strike. That's some sizable damage, and it makes your spender very fun to press. We talked about this Avalanche. Why did I keep saying Avalanche? Because it doesn't just do damage now. It applies Razor Ice, and it applies Razor Ice AoE, which is something we can't do with any other effect besides Glacial, which is terrible. So applying Razor Ice AoE is huge because you have a lot of AoE cleave damage, so now that just does more damage, and also because you have another way to apply Razor Ice to quickly stack up for more Frost damage, and then consumed for more Shattering Blade damage, right? So Avalanche, very important. Second and Power Charge is really important because you have fast pillars. Of course, you want a second charge to go with the second pillar because it's not, otherwise it's going to be completely desync, right? So the more charges you can have, the better, and just gives you a ton of haste and rune generation during pillar. It's a no-brainer. Then you get Rhyme, does more damage, which is fantastic because you get free ones from A-Bomb Limb, and then you get Chill Streak. Chill Streak, I know people have been frustrated with this talent. They don't want to build entirely around it, and you're not. I just showed you the entire left side of the build doesn't require Chill Streak at all. But unfortunately, Chill Streak still hits really, really hard. And you still do a ton of cleave as Frost and dual wield Frost. And you still have a ton of pressure in those AoE stun goes. So yeah, you want to add Chill Streak to that. And you get one talent to get you so much damage. And then just one more talent to buff it even further. Gives you a 70% slow. It only costs 1 rune. It does tons of damage. And this is a big question that I had, Enduring versus Piercing Chill. You can make it burstier with Piercing, or you can make it more reliable, because increasing the bounce range is the most important part of this. The maximum number of bounces is good. It still makes it do more damage, but increasing the bounce range is incredible because you know that sometimes it can just fizzle out if they just get a little ways away, be right before your limb pulls them back in and you get that Remorseless Winter Stun, right? But this makes that harder to happen. Your Chill Streak is more reliable, and a big damaging burst ability being more reliable is incredibly good. So that is the dual wield build. We talk about the left side of the talents after I go over the two-handed build. So let's take a look at that real quick. So I said I was going to do this, and now we're going to see what that means. Of course, you go Might of the Frozen Wastes to change. That's your biggest change, because that gives you the two-handed setup. You have to do this, so don't even think about not using this, right? That's what makes two-handed anything. And then I showed you that there's a way that you could either just run Falling Crusader. So let's take a look at let me show you this visually, because I know some people are just visual learners. I understand that completely. You put on the two-handed weapon, you have Falling Crusader, right? Then you avoid Shattering Blade, so you don't consume your Razor Ice, and then you stack up Razor Ice with Avalanche. So this way, you get the Razor Ice value, you get the damage from it, and you can still run Fallen Crusader, so you get that. So you get the most modifiers, and then you get the two-handed damage modifier, and now this is the highest amount of Obliterate damage you can possibly hit. So Obliterate's going to be like 50% of your damage when you use this, trust me. Of course, you don't get the big Frost Strikes. So you could switch this around. I'll show you exactly how to. But what you do, because you're not running the Chill Streak setup now, you're not running Shattering, you actually get all of the Rhyme proc value. So now you have the Rhyme proc value here from Improved Rhyme, and you get Icebreaker for even more Rhyme damage. And this thing hits almost as hard as an Obliterate when you've got all of the modifiers, and you get the Rhyme procs, and you get guaranteed Rhyme procs during A-Bomb Limb. So during that pillar go, instead of going like huge Oblit, huge Frost Strike, huge Oblit, huge Frost Strike, you're going huge Oblit, like huge Oblit, and then huge Rhyme proc. And it's kind of like just a different alternate way, and that does a ton of cleave too, which is fantastic. The setup is not bad at all. I just know that a lot of people will be a little bit confused about like the Razor Eyes versus Fallen Crusader, blah, blah, blah. So let me just show you the other setup, right? All you would have to do is drop the Icebreaker, and grab, right, one stack of Icebreaker and grab Shattering. And then you would just put Razor Ice on your two-handed weapon. Because again, if you're going to be consuming them, you have to apply them quicker. You can't just let Avalanche do it, right? And I do think you still need Avalanche. Of course, you could drop Avalanche back for another Icebreaker. Or you could drop Avalanche for Chill Streak. But this is kind of set up for those who don't like the Chill Streak playstyle and just want to go in and big Obliterate, big hit, big hit, big hit, right? And you need that Avalanche for the faster Razor Ice application because, again, you don't have dual wield, so your auto attacks are slower, so you're not applying it as quickly, and you want those big Shattering Strikes, so you need to build up your Razor Ice. So I just gave you two potential setups for two-hander and one for dual wield. And while I personally am leaning a bit toward dual wield, we'll see when that tier set comes up. Obliterate damage will be off the charts. It will be, and I know a lot of people want to play that, so this is exactly how you do that. Okay, again, let's take show. Here it is. All of these builds are going to be in the description, so you don't have to, but let's just show it. Visual learning. You can do this, or watch this. Take out the Shattering, Icebreaker, Fallen Crusader. Take out the Icebreaker, Shattering, Razor Ice. There you go. You can't say I didn't tell you that. Okay, we're good? Good. All right, let's go over to the left side now. The left side is where we need the season to start. I'm going to show you some really important things about this left side, but I'll give you this starter build that you can work with, but there's a lot of changes that we're going to have to make based on the meta or based on the comps that we're queuing into. So let me go back over to the dual wield setup and let me show you some important things. Let's start at the top. Permafrost is important. Dual wield is way better with it. Auto attack damage, faster swings. Your two-handed hits harder, but dual wield just does more white damage overall. And Icy Talons makes this really good. So Permafrost plus Gloom Ward is actually something to look out for. This ends up being a lot of healing as dual wield, and you should look for that. Of course, here's fast AMS and here's fast IBF. We were playing very, very short games. Like very, very short games. So I was not running either of those because I would never get either of them back up. But both of those are for tankiness options, fast IBF to get out of stuns faster, and your wall coming up faster, and fast AMS against spell cleaves, or magic damage of any sort, like Frost DKs, or Unholy DKs, or Demon Hunters, right? Or Rep Paladins. There's a lot of magic damage in the game, and if you find yourself dying to it, you can run AMS, short AMS, and of course Spell Warden. We'll talk about PvP talents at the end. So here's a focal point. Here's a focal point. I talked about Permafrost and Gloom Ward. Again, if you're running two-hander, you can do stuff like this, right? Swap these around. Even you can take 2 out of Unholy Bond, and then you can get yourself all of the survivability options, right? You can even take yourself out of Permafrost if you're two-hander and run Death Pact, right? So you got to look at the high priority talents. See, am I dying? Okay. What comp are they? Okay, they have a lot of magic damage. Oh, they don't? It's all physical? Okay, I'll just take this off and we'll run something like that, right? Oh, hold on, I'm actually dying, but it still is only physical damage. Let me run permafrost. Oh, I'm actually not dying at all. I can drop all this and just be fully offensive. You see how that works? Like, let's say your partner is dying every game. It's a certain comp that just always goes to your partner. Why would you need the survivability tools, right? You could actually just get off of them and do the maximum output, right? This talent tree, I'm going to give you a baseline for. I'm going to give you something to work with, but this is going to be changed in every single arena, the start of every single solo shuffle, the start of every single twos game, right? This stuff is going to be changed around. You need to know the priority talents and know what they do in order to maximize your use out of this left side. The other thing is, let's talk about some of the other most important things. Empower, auto pick, A-bomb limb, auto pick. A-bomb limb is 2 disruptive and sizable damage and gives you rhyme procs, which I already talked about how good that is. So you can't drop it, and you can't drop the second empower charge. It's too good with having fast pillar again. Empower for the first pillar, empower for the second pillar. So that does mean you're going all the way down this and all the way down this in this exact way. So you saw when I was changing things around, I was changing things from Unholy Bond or Death Pact or short AMS, right? Those are the things you can change. You cannot change anything here or here. You're always running Will of the Necropolis. You're always running Rune Mastery. You're always running A-Bomb Limb, always Empower, always Icy Talons, always Insidious Chill, now that it works, thankfully. Right? So you're just switching out some of those off talents, maybe the more niche talents, and you are playing based on, okay, magical. Oh, physical. Oh, I'm still dying. Oh, I'm not dying at all. Let me switch out of that and go down this way, right? That's how it works. Okay, finally, PvP talents. Whoo, here we go. All right, let's start with the most important thing, Dead of Winter. You're going to notice in none of my builds did I choose Absolute Zero and Frostworm's Fury, and here's exactly why. Absolute Zero and Frostworm's Fury are 2 talents for a short stun on a long cooldown that does no damage. Frostworms is still nerfed in PvP, so it is very, very low damage. That's bad for 2 reasons. It's bad because you use 2 talents to accomplish 1 effect. That's not even that great because it's a long cooldown, short duration stun. But it's also bad because it does not pair well with any of your cooldowns. 1 minute 30? What the heck is that? That doesn't do anything, right? You know what you could do is a 45-second stun. That's fantastic because you know what else has 45-second cooldown? Chill Streak. And you know what else starts getting close to a 45-second cooldown? Pillar with Ice Cap. So instead, your stun is a longer duration. It's 4 seconds instead of 3, and it pairs with your damage. It pairs with your pillars. It pairs with your faster goes. It pairs with your chill streak if you're running it, right? So, it is very important that you understand how valuable Dead of Winter is versus how weak Absolute Zero synergizes with your actual playstyle right now. I still think Absolute Zero has a lot of value in RBGs, so you can swap out of like Chill Streak if you want for a long range AoE stun, but in a 3s environment, I just feel like Dead of Winter pairs with everything Frost does so much better, and losing 2 end talents is brutal there because your end talents are very good. So Dead of Winter surpasses Absolute Zero. Strang is extremely good, it's just absolutely awesome. It's a 4-second silence on a 1 minute cooldown. It doesn't DR with absolutely anything you have. It's great for going healers. It's great for finishing off a kill by stranging a healer when their teammates is low. It's really good against Vokers because a lot of their immunities don't actually work for Strang. In fact, I think all of them don't work for Strang, so that's just a great button. And finally, they gave us Necrotic Aura back, meaning we do more magic damage than Unholy does. Way more. So of course we want Necrotic Aura. This is pretty much just do 8% more damage. That's what this says. And if you have a partner that does magic damage, this says you and your partner do 8% more damage. And maybe if you have an Evoker healer on your team, they also do more damage. So Necrotic Aura is kind of like a locked-in auto pick. Of course, if you do find yourself dying, remember, what did I talk about? Spell Warden. This is an incredible tool. Spell Warden is maximum survivability against wizards, and when you have that, and short AMS and AMZ, again, there's another niche talent that you have to run into if you're running against casters. That's a no-brainer, though. Again, this is how you swap that kind of stuff out. Look at that. Boom, boom. There you go. Or if you just want this, boom. All right. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. This is what we have to... You can't make a loadout, unfortunately, for every combination of the left side of your talents. There would just be hundreds, so... Gonna have to get used to what they do. But... Necrotic Aura, fantastic. Spell Warden, fantastic when paired with Zone and AMS. You're a Greek unkillable god. Delirium is good against Evokers. We're going to talk about this in the compendium, but I'll just go over them so you guys know that I still know that they exist. What's actually crazy is Death Chill actually might have value now too, because it doesn't really break from any frost damage, so you can grip, Remorseless Root them in your AoE stun, and since Dead of Winter is in your auto pick, that's incredible. You could just drop like Strang or Necrotic Aura and just have a very, very strong go with grip Remorseless Winter into Remorseless Winter stun. Wow. But we're gonna have to talk about all that in the actual season, because that's stuff that needs the meta develop. So I don't want to go into that because we're getting into the crazy stuff. Here's my default 3. These are all really good all the time. You can look at them, you can look at what they do, and they're like, oh yeah, that's good all the time. Doing more damage is good all the time. Stunning your enemy team is good all the time. Stranging healers is good all the time. Fantastic. And that's it. That's it. That's Frost starter guide. Going into the expansion, we're going to have a lot more information. Of course, I'm going to save the rotation, playstyle, and comp section for the season, okay? So the Dragonflight videos will look a lot like this one. The Season 1 rated PvP compendiums will look a lot like this one, except there'll be gear, then talents, then PvP talents, then rotation, burst windows, and comps. And that's how it'll end. But this one, not yet. That's you're gonna have to wait for at least one thing. You're gonna have to wait for that in the next videos. And I hope you guys are excited, and thank you so much for watching. I hope this answers a lot of questions that you guys might have about Frost DK going into the new season. Cool. Peace.